Hey, everybody. Welcome to the broadcast. My name's Ethan Evans. I'm the Easy Coach. I'm going to stall here for just a second because I have a really good friend who's going to bring some of her friends with us to watch our stream tonight. So as soon as she sees we're live, we're going to have a bunch of people jump in. Those of you who are already here will probably see chat light up a little bit because they're Twitch natives. And that's one of our moderators on the channel, Shadow Fox. So I was just watching her stream, and she was talking to her fans about how they'll be coming to watch us. So once we do that, I'll explain a little bit about how the broadcast works and the show we're doing tonight. But for everybody else, I'm glad to see we have our first question in. And we're starting to get some folks in chat. Oh, and whoa, my phone is still live. Big gaff. I'm managed to put myself live on my phone. So, hey, there's Shadow Fox and her party of 58. So, all right, we're ready to go. Welcome, everybody coming from Shadow's stream. This is Ethan Evans. I'm the Easy Coach. And tonight we're going to talk about 4 simple steps that are universal to grow your career. And we hope you're all really interested. And we'll get a lot out of it because no matter where you are in your life, you probably have a job and you probably like that job to go well and get better. And I've spent a lot of time helping people grow their careers. And so what we're going to do here tonight is try and take you through the 4 basic steps that can accelerate your career growth. And I'll run through those steps in just a second. First, since we have a lot of new guests, and I really appreciate the raid from Shadow Fox, one of our honored moderators. Couple rules for the channel. Number 1, I do work at Twitch, and I run Twitch Prime. But when I'm here, I'm speaking personally, so I'm not speaking on behalf of either Twitch or Amazon. I'm just sharing my expertise as an executive. So I don't answer questions about Twitch or about Amazon. Those need to go through official channels. So that's like my social media disclaimer. But particularly since we have a lot of people on the channel who understand extensions, you will see there's a Q&A widget. And so what I normally do in these broadcasts, I do a little bit of explanation and then give the framing, but then mostly I run it as a Q&A with the audience. And so you can put in questions in the extension and vote them up. There is an option to use bits, but I'm not at all looking for that. That's my producer, Awesome Dave, who's built the extension for use by anybody. So it has a bits monetization feature. But actually anything we make on the channel either goes to our expenses for equipment or goes to charity. So you don't need to spend a thing here unless you want to. But you can put in any question you'd like on the topic and I answer them in the highest voted orders. You can also vote on the questions of others. So I know we have one question in. It's a long one from someone at Amazon asking about how to grow their career there. Whatever ends up being the top question, I'll address it. So jumping right in, our 4 simple steps tonight. There are 4 basic steps to grow any career. And the last one is like shampooing your hair. It's repeat. So that one's really easy. So there's really 3 and then a loop. Number 1, you have to do your job well. You're not going to get more responsibility or grow your career if you're not doing your basic job well. Now, I'm going to go into each step in detail. I want to list them first. Number 2, after you're doing your job well, you need to go to your boss, your manager, your managing partners, whatever that is, and ask him or her, what are you worried about? What do you need help with? How can I help? Simple question. Number 3, when she tells you, do it. You can't say, well, what do you need me to do? Oh, I didn't mean that. And do it well. And if that requires learning or extra effort, great. And then number 4, repeat. So super quick. All careers get bigger faster in a simple loop. Do your job well. Ask what else you can do that will add more value that your boss needs help with. Do that thing. Go in a loop. Okay. So I said when I set up this broadcast, simple steps. They are simple. They are not always easy. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about them because after all, I'm the easy coach. What am I doing telling you about steps that aren't easy? Some of these do take extra effort. So let me go a little bit more into that. First, do your job well. I don't know what you do. I can't know what you do, but those are table stakes. So to do your job well, and thank you, Akbla, for the sub. Our original subscriber, good friend of mine, coming back for 3 months. Definitely appreciate that. I encourage everyone, go ahead and start putting questions in about these 4 steps or about growing your career, because we'll get to those in just a minute. So doing your job well, I don't know what that takes, but if you want to go deeper into it for your specific job, we've had another series on taking feedback well and performance reviews. You got to find out from your boss and your peers, are you doing your job well? We all like to think we are. You probably know this, but 90% of people think they're in the top half of drivers. So like nobody basically thinks they're a bad driver. I only ever knew one woman who admitted she was a bad driver, and when she described to me how she drove, it scared the hell out of me. She said, yeah, she'd be driving down the road and decide it was a good idea to look around for things in her back seat. And I thought, oh my God, okay, you have a clear picture, you're a bad driver, but you're the only person I've ever met who said it. We all think we're great at our jobs, and we all think everybody loves us. You got to find out how you're doing. And your boss is, unfortunately or fortunately, the one person that really has a lot of power there. If your friends think you're doing great, but your boss doesn't, you need to fix that. Now, I can take questions about how to do that, but the basic thing is ask them. Ask, look, am I doing a good job? What would make it better? And then do those things. Now, you're a great driver, Shadowfox. Yes, we all are, it turns out. Everyone is a great driver. That's what I said right after I hit the woman. No, I've not had that experience, thank God. So once you're doing a great job, I'm looking at the chat here. Then you need to ask what else you can do. And the great thing, if you go ask, hey, what else can I do? What else can I do? You'll get something interesting. And by the way, everything I'm saying does presume that you work for a decent boss and a decent company. We'll talk more later in the broadcast about what to do if you don't. But I'm not saying you have the perfect boss or the perfect company, but you need a decent one. And we'll talk about what that looks like. So now you go ask your boss what you can help with and what are they worried about? And I'm going to explain from the position of an executive how we think about that. Basically, we have tons of worries. We're always looking at a big group. We manage some number of people. It may be 5, it may be 500. We have lots of things going on in our minds at all times that we're worried about. Every day I go home with a list of stuff that I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do about this? So the thing I welcome most is help. And if someone comes to me and says, how can I help you? Number one, I'm already happier with them. Like most of the people who work for me are like most of the people who work for any boss. They don't come around saying, hey, what can I do to help you? Instead, they come and say, hey, Ethan, I have this problem and that problem. And I don't like Sue and I don't like Benjamin and I don't like Frank. And John didn't give me what I needed. And such group isn't helping out. They're giving me problems. So when you come in my office and offer to take a problem, I already love you that much more. And it's not even a choice. It's human. It's human that I'm going to have that response to you, whether I want to or not. And the only thing that can interrupt that is step one. In other words, if you come ask me, what else can you do to help? And I need to tell you, well, what you need to do to help is do your damn job because you're not doing it. And I don't want to have, like, that's an awkward conversation. You'd be like, hey, I'd like to grow my career. How can I help you? And I have to be like, well, you can like show up to work and do what you're supposed to, and then we'll talk, I will say that to you. Not all bosses will. And so you want to cover step one, then ask step two. Okay. Now the boss asks for something. They're happy. They're going to give you a problem. Let's be honest. They're going to give you something that's hard for them, or that, not hard for them, but that they need done. This is now your golden chance. Now, the rub, and this is where I say things are simple, but not always easy. Shadow, do your job, go figure. That's why I'm the easy coach here, is some things are pretty obvious, but we like to forget them. Like, yeah, it's okay if I knock off and don't work too hard. Look, a lot of getting ahead in your career is working hard. And that's how I actually met Shadow Fox. I met her when she was transitioning to Twitch streaming, coming out of, and I'm sure all of her fans have heard this story, she was coming out of a place where she wasn't appreciated, and so she built her own career. But moving back to what you do, once your boss gives you something, you want to move heaven and earth to do that well. The trick is you already have a job, and so you may have to do some extra work. God forbid again. You may have to do some extra work. That's okay though, right? The point of this is you're trying to advance your career faster, and I never promised you that would be free. I told you tonight I would tell you how to do it. And in order to do it, you may have to do some extra work. So step 3, do good work. And now it's time to repeat. So repeating this loop, though, there's a nuance that's important. When you go back to your boss, you can now start to ask for new things. Hey, I mastered this thing you asked me to do. Could I do another project that looks like this? Or could I do a project that would help me learn accounting or finance or marketing or deeper coding skills? Whatever the thing is that you want to learn, you can ask, do you have a project there? Yeah, so we're getting low battery warnings, which I assume you know about.
Yes.
Yeah, so this camera hates us. It's a great camera, but it somehow just eats us up on the battery warnings. So anyway. Okay. So when you go back to your boss now, you ask for things that will help build your career in the direction you would like. And yeah, I see 40 Pink Dragons, another one of our moderators has chimed in. We have a lot of questions coming in. That's fantastic. Go ahead and feel free to use the on-stream extension to vote up and down what you would like me to address, because we're about to transition to that. So the point is, now's your chance to ask for things that will build your career. And I want to talk again about how bosses think. How we think is, who do I want to invest my time mentoring and why? So in my personal case, I have several hundred people who work for me, and I like to coach. It's why I do this stream. And they come to me and say, hey, would you mentor me? Could you spend some time with me? Well, I have to prioritize. And harsh prioritization is, I'm going to invest in the people who are helping me the most. And one of the ways to do that is, if you've come and asked me how you can help me, I'm more interested. But it's a really simple calculus I want to explain because it's powerful. And I already work, like you probably do, more than 40 hours a week. Every hour I spend working with you, helping you with your career, may help my job and may help us all succeed, but is an hour I'm not spending with my family. So I have to basically decide, would I rather have a glass of wine like Awesome Dave, the producer, is doing here off screen, or would I rather spend another hour at work helping you grow your career? Now, as it turns out, since I broadcast about careers, maybe I do a little of each. But for most bosses, it's a straight up decision between going home and having a beer and spending more time growing your career. If you want them to invest in you, you need to earn that. And that's how you can be thinking is, look, how do I earn time? And so you're trying to get that investment from your boss or from another mentor, by the way, someone else. It doesn't always have to be your boss, someone who can teach you and build you up and give you opportunities. And somebody's asking, was the title supposed to change with the topic? It'll change when we start rolling questions, I believe. So you can earn that investment, and I invest the most in the people who are helping me. So that's why I'm telling you about this loop. So in review, before we go into questions, do your job well, ask your boss what he or she needs, do it, repeat, but then you can start asking them, hey, I'm invested in you. Can you help me with my career? And because you're helping me, I will help you back. And again, that's not just me, that's human nature. Think about how you react to other people. If someone's always offering to help you, you're more likely to help them. And if they ask you for something and they're always helping you, even if that sucks for you, you're pretty much going to feel obligated. So this is just human nature. And the way to move your career quickly is to lean into that human nature environment. And I would love to tell you that all career progress is somehow cosmically fair. It's not. It's based a lot on human relationships and who's motivated to invest in the circumstances. And you need to lean into that and take advantage of human nature and just think it through a little. So, I said I'd talk quickly about bad bosses and bad companies. Everything I've said only works if you have a decent relationship with your boss and you're working at a company where some sort of advancement is possible. Some people don't have that circumstance and they need to get the hell out. And what I would say there is you spend most of your life at work that isn't sleep time. And yeah, we better not have any more battery problems because Awesome Dave just went to the wine bottle for a refill. So I'm sure he's capable of handling the problems, but he must be at his stress level. Anyway, it's always fun to talk about the producer behind the screen. The point is, if you have a lousy boss, get out. And I've done other talks on that. I will in the future. How do you recognize that? How do you know how much to put up with? I'm not saying run away right away, but I am saying life is too short to have a really bad situation. We can talk about how to hunt for a job another time. I've done talks before about how to find and choose your next job. Go look at those on our YouTube channel if you want. But if you don't have a boss who's going to work with you, if you invest and get back nothing, move on because there are good bosses out there. Second thing is, all of what I'm saying is easier on a high growth team or a high growth company. If you're in an environment that is extremely static, where there's very little ability to progress, and pretty much everyone stays in their job until they retire or pass away from tragedy, it's going to be much harder to move up. So you need to find a high growth environment with a lot of opportunity in order to grow. And this is simply a matter of choosing the right company, and that can be a startup. Startups are very dynamic and high growth. It can be a large company with a team that's growing quickly. A lot of the big tech companies have that. But you got to find that place that's growing fast. So those are my basic framing. I've done a lot more talking on this stream than I normally do, so I'm going to switch to questions. We have an epically long question. I hope the person who sent it in is listening because I'm going to go through it. So let's jump to that one. And I always read them out. And the reason I do that is so that the folks who hear this later as a podcast know what we were talking about. So pardon me, I'll read quickly. Switching teams within Amazon affects your career growth, personal experience. However, I can't help but move around as after I've spent some time on a team, 2 years, I get bored. We'll talk about that in a second. I'm a quick learner and often outperformed established players in their respective teams. scoring, this is inside Amazon language, scoring a top tier rating 3 out of 5 years. Still, when I speak to my manager about moving to the next level, they always have the same answer to plan for the next 3 years, and everyone ignores what I've achieved. Advice. Boy, do I have a lot of it. So we're gonna watch the time and try and cram the advice into no more than 5 minutes. Number one, I get getting bored. My personal threshold is 3 to 4 years, and I tend to make a change in 3 to 4 years. And times where I've stayed longer than that, my performance has suffered. So I understand that. That said, I'll say you may want to, advice number one, manage your boredom threshold to get longer. Because whether we're talking about Amazon or somewhere else, there's good data that shows every time you change managers, you set your career back because you're losing all that context where your manager knows what you've done. And so if you're trying to get promoted, at least in a company that has promotions as opposed to changing companies, you have to re-earn that credibility and they have to get to know you. Remember this loop I just described where if you're trying to grow your career, you need the people above you to invest in you and give you opportunity. Well, if you change who those people are, they don't know you well enough yet to invest in you. I don't know you enough to stop spending time with my family so I can spend an hour coaching you on your career and setting you up for a new project. You're going to have to earn that. So if you switch managers, you're going to have to earn it again. So slowing that down a little is piece of advice number one. But reality check, you move on. Second thing, if you really know that you've been rated top tier, the top rating sort of thing at Amazon, but all companies have ratings. If you're really getting the top performance rating, and that isn't just a participation trophy at your company, it really means you're doing well, fantastic. The thing I would give as advice to everyone who's listening, you may have a boss who has real trouble giving you hard feedback. Try to figure out, am I really doing well? Or is my boss conflict averse and can't give me real feedback? But let's assume, like the asker here, you're doing well. So then the bottom part of the question is basically everyone has a 3-year plan for me to get to the next level. And I normally move every 2 years. What now? You're going to have to figure out how to either stick it out long enough to get through that, or to bring enough context with you where when you talk to the next manager, you say, look, I have all this experience. I'm not going to take this job if it's a 3-year path. I'm not being demanding, but here's what I've done. You basically have to get them up to speed and make a deal on the way in the door that they see your past work and are willing to honor it and put you on a short path. So that's part of the negotiation. This is why I said, by the way, be careful about being bored too quickly. This isn't a show about changing jobs right now, but part of progressing your career is making a little bit of a deal with a manager or a new boss. You can be going to a new company. When you go in, set expectations. This is what I'm trying to achieve. I'll bust my butt helping you, but here's what I'm looking for. And then build that partnership. People ask me all the time, and this question sounds a little bit like that. Not that this person said that. I don't know who wrote this. But people ask me all the time, why didn't you promote me? And the answer is, I give them is, why didn't you promote yourself? Why didn't you earn it? Why didn't you demonstrate it? And that's easier for me to say, right? I'm the boss. Why didn't you demonstrate it? Well, look, it's in my best interest, actually, to promote people. Think about it this way. I have a team of people. Would I rather have more capable people or less capable people? Now, there are occasionally bosses who are threatened by capable people. That's a case where you got to get the hell out. There's a couple people on this stream I've actually talked to, usually women, who their boss can't handle the fact that they're good at what they're doing, and they've had to leave jobs, or they're struggling in a job because their boss doesn't want challenged from below. I love it when people challenge me. Just think it through. If you can do my whole job, I can put my feet up. This is a great deal for me. So the point I'm getting at is you can earn help, but you got to make that deal up front. And I have both working upward to my boss in the past and with people below me absolutely made symbiotic partnerships where I say, look, I will do these things that help you, and I'm looking for this in return. Now, you can't be an extortionist jerk about this. You can't have the other side of it, which is like, hey, and if you don't give me what I want, I'm not going to do anything for you. They're paying me. I have a job. But what I can do is say, look, could we work something out where it looks like you could use a lot of help here? I'll put in extra effort. In my case, it was usually on technology. I will put in extra effort making you look good and helping you succeed with your technology efforts. And you help me grow my career or achieve the next level over here. And I have done that several times very successfully, both with people who busted their asses helping me because I was growing their career and upward to my boss. And so that's, again, leaning into human nature. So finishing up, I'm 1 minute over on how long I want to talk on this question. What you need to do here is make that deal with the next manager. Say, look, I will do these things for you. You have a hard project. I'll bust my butt on it. I'll take on a challenging project and I'll see it through. And I'm looking for something out of that. That's a conversation most Amazon managers should be good to have, and I would say at any company. Let's go to the next question. Waiting. Question text a little slow to update here. Is it on the screen behind me?
Yep.
It's not on the screen in front of me. Sorry. There we go. So, does this method work if you believe your boss to be someone who routinely takes credit for others' work? No. It could work a little bit, but this falls into the bad boss category, right? Does this method work if you believe your boss to be someone who routinely takes credit for others' work? No, I don't. I talked a little bit earlier in the broadcast. I don't know if the person who asked this was here, but I assume so. If you have a truly bad boss, you're going to need to get out. Now, you got to be careful not to be hypersensitive. Family story, my sister had a boss. This is decades ago now. My sister had a boss who she created and wrote a report and did all the research for it, did all the work. And he actually took her name off of it, put his own name on it, and passed it up the chain. And this is, I'm old and she's my older sister. This is probably in the 1980s. So things were a little different. But she quit over it, and I think rightly so. And a lot of people, like my father, were stunned, like, oh, that's the way it works. Particularly because at the time, oh, well, you're a girl. That's the way it works. She had the right of it and just left. And in a case like that, I would say, like, you're out. Go find a boss who will support you. But don't be hypersensitive. If your manager is simply using the royal we, like, hey, we had this idea, or some of that, I'd say it can be okay. It's not good, but it's kind of like my advice to the last person, don't jump jobs too quickly and without getting to know the manager that you're going to go work for. Just because you're bored, don't be driven out of your job. Don't be too quick to suspect this. But if you have a boss who does routinely take credit for the work of others, you basically have a boss who's insecure, and that's not a good sign. And so I would say, go ahead and get out. So I love this advice in the chat, by the way, that clickbait titles work better. Maybe. I believe the advice. We'll have to figure out what to title our streams, but we don't want to be too clickbaity since we're looking at a professional audience, though I bet it's dead on. So in finishing answering this, if you have a boss that's okay at this, but not great, I would say if you're helping your boss look good, they will still value you. So you can still get investment. And if their thing is to hold you close and say, look what we did when it was really you doing it, that could be okay. Not great, but it can work. Remember, not every work situation is perfect. I certainly have worked through some hard situations while growing my career, and they weren't always the perfect job. Let's go ahead to the next one. Why is it better to ask your boss to choose an extra work to impress than to identify extra opportunities yourself and deliver on those? I love this question. Whoever put it in, thank you. Simple. Your boss gets, in many ways, to judge whether or not you're ready for the next big opportunity or the next promotion, and your taste or opinion of what extra things to deliver on may not be what they want or need. Now, does that mean suck up and kiss ass all the time? No. But it does mean I would rather be aligned with my boss and ask them what they need than always make it up. Here's the middle ground that does work very well. You can also annoy a boss by coming in and saying, what else can I do? What else can I do? And making them think it up. The perfect world for me and for any reasonable boss, I think, is when you come and say, hey, I was looking at how our team's doing, and it looks like we need a new system to process TPS reports automatically so that no human has to touch them. And I have an idea for that. Keywords coming now. Would you like me to work on that? Or is there something else you need more? If I could give like God's gift to a leader, it's an employee who's looked at how the team is doing and looked at the team goals, thought about how they could help, and then said, can I go ahead and do this thing? Or is there something else you need more? That is the win-win, where you identify and suggest your own opportunity. Because look, if I'm a manager, I'm thinking right away, this person is thoughtful, they're looking out for the whole team, they're trying to help, they're putting forward ideas. I am thrilled. And that's like the perfect opportunity, and that's what you want to showcase. And then it's win-win for you because you've suggested what you want to do. And now remember, the loop here is do your job well, ask your boss, do what you're asked, repeat. But when I said repeat, I said you can then ask for what you want to do. Let's say I do say, I don't need TPS report automation right now. I really need whatever, marketing copy written or a new tool to update our website. After you do that, you're always free to come back and say, hey, that's done. What do you think of that TPS report idea? And so most managers want you to be successful. Sorry, most good managers. Again, if you have a manager you think isn't ultimately invested in your success, get the hell out. So, this has been a great question. I hope I answered it clearly. Let's go ahead and move on. And thank you all, by the way, for keeping questions in. It makes it so much easier when I know what you'd like to hear about. So our next question here is, how would someone just out of college figure out their field in software? Software engineer, that's probably web engineer, SDE, web back-end, front-end. So this question's a little off topic for how to grow your career quickly, but we'll see what we can do with it tonight. My brain's just not in that space. So how would someone out of college figure out what they should do in any case? I think a lot of that is experiment. And so I would try to find a place that will let you try a few different things. Now, we are very practical here at the Easy Coach. If you need a job, take a job, earn some pay, deal with the fact it may not be perfect for you, and look for a better job in the meantime. But If you have a good job, or if you have the luxury, talk to people. And in this case, in any job where you're not sure what you want to do next in your career, I'd prioritize finding a boss and a situation that's a little bit flexible. That can be a startup where they need lots of things, and the way a good startup often works is you start out as a jack of all trades, and then as the company grows, they need to specialize, and you can pick things and specialize in different areas that appeal to you, and they can hire somebody else to do the other part. So in a case like this, as the startup grows, you've done some web, some back end, some front end, whatever, or you've done some marketing copy and some search engine optimization and all sorts of different areas. When the company grows, you can say, look, I really love doing search engine optimization, or I really love doing back end development. Let me specialize in that and hire someone else as a web dev. That's how I would approach that, is I would try to test those things. I have a lot of favorite books. They're on the Easy Coach website. I hope you guys check it out and follow us there. One of my favorite books is a book called Decisive. It talks about how to make good decisions. One of the things it says is experiment. They call it ooching, which they borrowed from somewhere, but it's basically how can you test different things. What I would do early in career out of college is I would try to find things where I could do lots of different things. And this is a case, again, when you're talking to your boss, say, look, I've done a lot of back-end work. I've done some front-end work. Is there a pure web dev project I could work on? Do you need something I could do there? And then if you want to use really magic things, you could do them at night or on the weekend. Thanks, Pink Dragons, for adding. I encourage everyone in chat. I should have said this earlier. If you have opinions on what I'm saying, you agree, you disagree, you have advice to add, have at it. We love to see. I don't believe that I have the perfect answer to everything. I believe I have a lot of experience to share. But by all means, there's a big audience that's been in a lot of different circumstances. Throw in what you have to add to the discussion. I may or may not see it go by, but whoever asks the question will benefit from it. So, bottom line here, experiment. And if you don't have any other opportunity to experiment, ask about bonus projects. Here's another set of magic words you can use with a manager. Hey, boss, I'm going to do a personal time project in web development. What you've done here is you've framed two things that are very key language. One, I'm doing this anyway, so you don't get to say what I do in terms of where I'm going to work. I'm going to do it on my time. So that's why you don't get a say, but now I'm going to offer you the chance to pick what I do. This is like Christmas. No boss is going to say, well, I don't think you should do any web development. You can't do that on your personal time. You have to do, like, that would be ridiculous. That would be your sign like, oh, I've got it. I need to change jobs. Most bosses are going to say, oh, wow, I've been given a Christmas present. You're going to do extra work and you're offering me to pick exactly what you do or to suggest where you experiment. You're going to get a big win and get to do something in your space. All right, Christmas trees. Awesome. Next question. So from a previous company, I've heard that take the job nobody wants, gets you noticed, and allows you to move up quickly. Is that real, or was that just a manager trying to get someone to fill a role? Could be either one. It is true, all managers love someone who's willing to do what needs to be done. And that is generally a great way to move up. There's another variation of this advice, which is take the hardest job. Again, let's say I go home at night with 10 problems in my mind. If you will take the toughest one from me, I'm more than 10% happier than I was. Like, not all problems are equal. So if you can do the job nobody wants or the hard job, yeah, This goes back to earning trust, building relationship, demonstrating your skill, showing you're a team player. I would say that is very valuable. Now, it can backfire, and you need to be a little bit careful. I'm an engineer, so I'm going to talk in software terms. This can be translated to other domains. In software, one of the things people don't want to do sometimes is fix the bugs or do the maintenance work. They don't want to handle the tickets. They want to work on new projects and architecture and clean design and algorithms. They don't want to fix the bug reports or update the servers. If you have someone who jumps in and does that, believe me, you value them. As a good manager, you love that person. However, if a manager's not careful, they'll come to rely on that. And then when you want to do something else, they'll be like, oh, no. You're so good at this thing nobody else wants to do. And they'll try and keep you there. That's a dangerous trade-off. What I would say is you want to do some of that and be like the best team player, because that will earn you value. But you got to, just like I told someone earlier, the person was looking at how to grow to the next level and felt like they were changing jobs too fast for it to happen. You got to have the conversation with your manager up front. These are my career goals. Yes, I'm a good team player, but this is what I want to be doing. How are we going to get me there? So in this case, you're earning that manager investment that I talked about earlier, the extra investment in your life and your future. You're earning that investment by having the person doing the hard job, but then you've got to be asking them, hey, where are we going? How do I get the project I need? How do we get me to the next level of skill or maturity? And I want to take a second to talk about this method I've been listing. Within Amazon, we develop leaders all the time. I teach one of the leadership development courses at Amazon, and obviously Amazon, very successful, one of the top technology companies. And the thing I would say is what I'm explaining here is based on that same methodology. There's nothing magical about this. But this is how we actually teach our managers to grow people. Here's how we phrase it in manager language. We tell them, find your top employees, because you can't invest in everyone equally. So we tell them, prioritize and look for your strongest performers, because they're the ones that are going to grow the most and the most quickly. So thing one, you want to be in that bucket. And that comes down to step one, do your job well. The manager version of that is find the people who are already doing their job well. Don't find the people who aren't doing their job well. It's a lot harder to grow them because you got to fix their performance first. Then what we tell them is give them a stretch assignment. Give them something that's a challenge. That's essentially the reverse of you asking, what do I need done? It's me taking something I need done and saying, hey, William, this is your new task. The difference is, if I have to give it to you, I will do that because it's good for me. And the idea is it will be good for you too. But now I'm having to do extra work and you may not like the task. I don't know if you're bought in. If you come and ask me, it's great. And then we repeat this process. And so after we stretch you, we evaluate how you did, we give you some feedback, and we do it all over again. Everything I've said is just you taking control of that process. But it's the same method we teach managers how to grow people. And you might wonder, why do we teach them? Well, yes, it's our job and investing in employees is great, but it's actually a strategically important thing for a powerful, successful company to be growing its human capital, its employees, quickly. So a good company is telling its managers how to help you develop. A poor company or take a startup, they may not have a formal process for that, but good managers are doing it instinctively, and they're doing it because everyone benefits from a stronger team. There's a great quote I love which is nothing makes a skipper look as good as a fast boat. It's a quote from sailing, but the point is you can either be the best sailing captain, that's me in this case, in terms of the boss is trying to captain the boat, or you can have a really fast boat and that's your team. It's a lot easier to win the race with the faster boat than by being the more clever sailor. Good bosses, good managers are trying to build a strong team, and this is how we do it. So, we'd love some more voting on the questions. So they're all in the on-stream extension. We've got some more here that we'll go through, but if the audience has opinions on them, by all means, log in and vote. Okay, next question is it best to be explicit with your boss about your desire to move ahead or to try to negotiate an agreement as to what you can expect in exchange for extra work if results are good? I sort of covered this earlier. I don't think you want to be extortionist about it. Dave, we lost the screen. I don't think we want to be extortionist about it, but what you do want to do is have a conversation with your boss. So one thing we haven't talked about is trying to build some level of human relationship with your boss. It doesn't mean you need to be best friends for life, but it does mean that you want to at least be able to have an honest conversation. And I'm not here, look, I'm the wrong person to tell you how to build a relation with your boss in deep level. But managers like performance. What they don't like to be is nagged about progress. When are you going to promote me? When are you going to promote me? When are you doing this for me? When are you doing that for me? That's not a good recipe. It is good, though, to have the discussion, what is my path forward? I have a really good manager works for me. He has a great thing he does every year. He may be on stream tonight. He's certainly been on some of these shows before or caught up on YouTube. What he does is every year he writes out his goal for the next year and his perceived gaps to that goal. And so he comes and says, this is what I'm trying to achieve. And basically he gives me a picture of it. Now, does he say, are you going to get me there if I do this extra work? No, but we have that discussion. So the bottom line here is I wouldn't ever try to hold your boss over a barrel. If you're in a negative relationship like that where you're threatening, it's probably a great way out. It's a sign that you need to get out. If you feel you need to extort, it's probably a good sign you're not in a healthy relationship. But it's completely fair to talk to your manager and say, look, I'm trying to get to the next level. I'm trying to earn more money. I'm trying to have this opportunity. What would you need from me in order to support that? What would you be looking for? And yeah, I see the chat here with Chalupa Whale. So your manager's saying, hey, I've got this great new opportunity is not the kiss of death. I hope not. Usually, it is a good opportunity. I think at good companies, we try to give things to people that we think will help them. Good point. The more you've politely talked to your manager and outlined what you're trying to do and shown that you're willing to do your part to get there, the more they're likely to try and match the job to you. Remember earlier, I talked about having 10 problems. Well, I have to hand those 10 problems out. I can't solve them all myself. Some people have talked to me and have helped me, and some people are just there. They're doing their job. I'm not criticizing them. They're working hard. They're busy. They're wonderful people, but they're not putting in the extra effort, and they're not building that relationship. Well, now I have 10 problems to hand out. Some of those problems will grow people. Who do you think I look first and try to match them up? Like it's human nature again. I take the problems and I say, okay, Sarah's been helping me out. Problem number 1 is great for Sarah. Problem number 2 is great for Fred. 3 through 10, here's some people. Bang, 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 bang. So, do you want the random problem or the one that at least I thought would work for you? Or maybe I even ask you and say, hey, I got 3 things that need done. Which one do you want to do? Yeah, so translation, look, I'm always honest, try to be anyway, as much as I'm self-aware. If you want your career to go quickly, it's going to take extra work. You might be brilliant, in which case you can like move your career up without much extra work, the infamous work smarter, not harder. Or you might be really lucky and might just grow effortlessly. I'm sort of talking to the 80% of the world for whom those two miracles don't happen. And in that case, it is sweat and focus. And, don't know what else. Val Tom, I assume bang cheer in this case means you don't like it that way. I'm with you. I wish it was all free and easy money. But I've bought a few lottery tickets in my life, and so far, no luck. Producer Dave and I were talking about this earlier. We were talking about startups. We both worked at a number of startups and had stock, and we thought, you know what? It's not going to be too many years till we're buying a private island. It hasn't happened yet. Maybe one day. Maybe very small and in a backyard swimming pool. We'll pour a bag of sand in the middle. Anyway, thank you for that question. What I would say is don't put your boss over a barrel. Do talk to them. Okay, next question is, does this method work as well in a situation where your boss is unlikely to progress or change jobs anytime soon? This question may have been here for a while because I talked about that. And basically, in a stagnant environment, it's harder to move up. So you want to try and find a reasonably high growth environment, or you can have a strategy that says, you know what? I'm going to build a lot of skills in this job, and then I'm going to change jobs. And by change jobs, I may mean change companies. Look, in the end, and I say this on a number of streams, you have to own your career. You have to take responsibility for it, and no one else can do that. So if you're in a situation where there isn't a lot of progress in the company you're in, then you have to decide, am I okay with that? There are some careers that there's really no notion of progress, and those can be very rewarding careers. They just aren't the professional ones I'm usually discussing. So as an example, if you look at teaching, high school science teacher is kind of a 30-year job, and there's no like senior high school teacher and then principal high school teacher, or however you would level it. There's high school teacher. And unless you want to go into administration of the school, that's what you are until you retire. Now, that can be incredibly fulfilling, but it's not a career path in the normal way it's understood. So, to this question, no, the method doesn't work well if there's no growth available, except it does work well to get raises in the role you're in if they value you, and to build skills you can take somewhere else. And there's nothing wrong with that. People change jobs all the time, and they change jobs validly for opportunity. So it works well in that sense. You demonstrate a lot of skills, you get the best projects, you can show. Hopefully your boss is supportive. Again, there are times where I've had to say to a boss, hey, or I've had to say to an employee, I don't have the right thing for you. You need to go to another role. So we've got a couple questions left. The queue's getting thin. We're also at 7 o'clock though. So that's pretty good. If you have any last questions you want to get in or you want to vote on any of them, go ahead. And after we answer a couple of these, then we'll call it a night. I have some closing announcements, so stick around for those because I think they'll be interesting. So I've read quite often that hopping jobs is the quickest way to progress your career and get significant raises. How much do you vouch for or against that? I'm super early in my career, so I don't have a lot of perspective here. Wow. This is a huge double-edged sword. So we'll talk about both sides real quick. It is often the fastest way to get an immediate raise may be to go negotiate at a new job. However, when most leaders look at resumes, they're looking for how long you stayed. And if they see 6 months, a year, 14 months, 12 months later, they will shy away because they know you're not going to stick. And so a pattern of high churn will cost you in the long term. So doing that once, doing that twice to pursue opportunity, completely possible. And we'll talk a little bit more about the challenges. Doing it constantly will eventually catch up to you. When I see a resume that's got only 6 or 12-month jobs, it goes at the bottom of my stack. And so suddenly you're weeding yourself out of future opportunities. So now you may say, well, I didn't want your opportunity anyway. You'll always, if you're good, you'll find somebody to hire you. But it may not be the best opportunity because think about my side of it. A good manager is going to invest in you. And if it looks like you're just going to leave in a short period of time, I'm not going to start that relationship, which means you're basically, if the manager is alert, the managers that are going to hire you are the ones that don't care how long you stay or go. And that means for some reason they generally don't care, period. They see you as transactional and disposable. So if you make yourself transactional and disposable, you will be. Now, I'm not recommending that you stay forever in a dead-end job. If you've listened to the whole show, I've said several times, if you're in a place where there's no progress or you're in a place where your boss is not supporting you and you've tried, you've put in some effort and you've asked some questions, or your boss is actively afraid of you being successful, like has happened to a couple people I know on the stream, then you have to make a change. But if you're only making a job to try and pump up your salary, that can be a bad move. Here's an important thing. You should be paid what you're valued. So if you're growing your skills quickly and either your company structure or your boss can't recognize your value, they don't have the tools or they're not able to, you may need to move. But make those moves thoughtfully and try to do them on good terms where, again, your boss is saying, look, I get it. Because if they're a future reference, they will say, look, Sarah left because we couldn't offer her the opportunity and she was ready for more. As opposed to, yeah, Sarah blew out of here. And believe me, if I ask for references and none of your former managers are listed, bottom of the pile, I take the other candidate. Because if none of your former managers will talk about you in a good way, I'm going to be your next manager and something's going to make sure I don't want to talk about you in a good way and I don't need burnt like that. As much as you have skills, I have other candidates. And so my advice, change jobs when you have to or when there's a really good reason. Don't just jump. All right, let's hit up the last question and we'll wrap it up. So this question is, what if you want to move to a different area of the company? Is it better to find a way to do work that relates to the area you want to work in? Sure, of course. If you want to change roles or grow your career in a different direction, it's absolutely worth trying to see if you can do a project in one of those areas first. Couple good reasons. The reason I think you refer to is you build and demonstrate that skill. So if you take software development and you want to move towards, say, database development, see if you can do a project with databases. See if you can ask, do we have any work in that area on our team? Just an example. If you want to move to a completely different role, we've had several people in our company have moved from administrative roles to project management. So they go from, say, coordinating interviews to scheduling out projects. So simple scheduling to more complex scheduling. They're doing relevant work, and so they have a skill to take with them, and they've demonstrated some ability. What you can't do, of course, is kind of stop doing your job. If we talk about the loop that I've set up about how you grow your career, it starts with do your job well. It can't become, hey, neglect my job because I want to move somewhere else. But changing career focus, completely legitimate. So, yeah, the question was here, is it better to find a way to do work that relates to the area you want to work in? Absolutely. And in my own career, which I haven't shared a lot about on this broadcast, first, I used to work in startups and I moved on average every 2.5 to 3 years. So moving on a 2.5 to 3 year pace is normal in the modern economy. It's moving less than a year that raises flags, particularly doing it repeatedly. And I see there's another question on that. We'll talk about that here in a sec. It just happens I'm answering it early. But later in my career, I've been at Amazon 14 years now, both at Twitch and at core Amazon. I've moved between roles, and I absolutely have asked, how do I learn the skills for this new job? Can I do that as a part of this job? And how I did that was going from being an engineer to being a general manager. I had to learn finance and monetary pieces, and I had to practice that. And so I took a smaller job than I had with a boss who needed it done, but who could give me that opportunity. All right, so a couple more questions came in. I'll answer those real quick. So follow up to the job hopping question. What if each of the tenures were 1.5 to 3 years and not 6 to 12 months? I think anything over 2 years doesn't raise eyebrows anymore. So 1.5 to 3 years, if you have that blend, maybe if you have like 4 2-year jobs in a row, it'll start to raise questions, or 5 of them. But a couple of 2-year jobs or 2-year roles will not generally raise eyebrows anymore, the way stuff that's sub 18 months will. So I think that's normal. A question I'll often ask people if I see that is, what sort of job would you like to stay at for the long term? And if they don't have an answer, then I worry. But if they have some plausible answer about what they'd like, then I can decide, am I likely to be the exception? So I would say, and look, I just shared without realizing that question was in there, that I moved every 2.5 to 3 years. And I did have one job that was only 6 months. I just made sure it was only once. It didn't work out. It wasn't, well, I didn't love the job. And then someone offered me a way better one, and I took it. I also had one job that was 14 months. My last job before I came to Amazon was 14 months. So 14 months, then 14 years. As long as it's not a pattern, it's not a problem. Last question. If you've worked with a company for 2 years and decide to leave because of the reasons you've mentioned before, what can you tell an interviewer when asked, why did you leave? I always think honesty is reasonable, but there are polite ways to have honesty. So you don't list here what reasons, but like, let's say I've said it's a bad boss or not enough opportunity. I think there are polite ways to say those things in a way that makes you sound thoughtful. So if it's more opportunity, you can say, look, I'm very ambitious in my career, and I'm looking for an environment where extra effort and investment can help me move more quickly. Now think about, if I'm the interviewer, what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that you want to give extra effort and that you want to invest in doing a great job. Who's not going to like that? So that's a positive way to explain. You explain it in terms of what you're looking for. So if they say, why do you leave? Remember, it's like politics. Politicians, you ask them, would you kiss my baby? And they tell you about their new tax plan. They choose to answer whatever question they want. You can a little bit do this yourself, why did you leave? Or why are you leaving? Or why are you looking? You can choose to answer that and say, here's what I'm looking for. And if they really press you on, but yeah, why are you leaving? You can say, look, because the environment I was in isn't delivering these things I'm looking for. We'll give you the hard one. If your honest answer is, I hate my boss, I would not say, well, I'm leaving because I hate my boss. Because I'm going to wonder, well, what do you hate? And I can't, it's not a good discussion. It's not positive. What you can say is, well, I'm looking for supportive management. And this is what supportive looks like to me. Or I'm looking for a supportive environment. You have to turn those reasons into a positive. That's the last thing I'll close on this topic is if you have a hard situation like that, like let's say you're one of the people whose resumes has a few jumps in it, you definitely want to think of a thoughtful explanation in advance of the interview. Like you don't want to be caught flat-footed with obvious questions. Talk to a friend and say, look, what's my resume say? Like if you were my worst enemy, what would you ask me based on this resume? And be good at answering those questions. Because they're going to come up in one way or another. I didn't share this, but I definitely had, after I had an interview, after I had changed jobs a couple times, relatively quicker, where the interviewer asked me, like, why didn't you stay? And I kind of fumbled around, and guess what? I didn't get the job offer. So if that's going to be a question, be ready for it. So in wrapping up the show tonight, first, thank you all for watching. Thanks to Shadow Fox for bringing her crew over. I hope you all enjoyed the new show. I hope you follow our channel here and come back. But a couple of announcements. Number one, we're going to do some on-stream coaching in the future. So one of the things we're going to do is, I think you're going to lose the screen here in a sec. One of the things we're going to do is I'm going to reach out and do some one-on-one coaching, but live on the stream. So if there's anybody out there who's interested in being part of our first experiment where I coach one-on-one, answer your questions just about you, but with an audience, you can just get in touch. You can do that either on LinkedIn or through our website. Leave a comment there or contact us there. Second, just as Awesome Dave put in here, thank you all for being here. Please do follow us on our YouTube channel. We had a funny incident there. We were pushing to get to 50 followers so we could get a custom URL. And while we were doing that, they moved the goalpost on us to 100. So if you've enjoyed the broadcast and you catch up on any of the past segments there, go ahead and subscribe on YouTube. Final announcement, we just got podcasts published into pretty much every place you can find a podcast. They're now on Google Play. They're on iTunes. So if you'd like to listen to us in audio format, you should be able to find the Easy Coach and all of our shows any place where you'd normally find a podcast. We'll be back next week. In the meantime, thank you very much and have a great night.